Hi, I'm Brianna Young from the Multilingual and Intercultural Communication Center, and today we have Zhu Hua with us, and she will be answering a few questions. We're delighted to have you here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm Zhu Hua, based in Birkbeck College, University of London. Delighted to have opportunity to meet the students and the colleagues and to talk about the work I love.
Oh, thank you so much.
So to start with, intercultural communication as a field was founded in 1950s, a long time ago, to meet the needs of diplomats when they actually posted abroad. They actually need to familiar themselves with some local knowledge. So that's how the field started. Nowadays, it's actually borrowed lots of a method from anthropology, psychology, social linguistics, and applied linguistics to look at how people of different cultural, different language backgrounds to interact with each other. And it also includes comparative studies of how people interact with each other from different language backgrounds. So it's a discipline on its own right now. So there is a lots of potentials for people to understand the key principles and practices within intercultural communication, to understand how we communicate with each other, how do we make meaning and getting things done.
And as for my second question, so how can we both be sensitive to people from other cultures and maintain our own culture when we interact with them?
It's a very important question. I think first thing I would say, be aware of different cultural specific ways of communication. By culture, I don't really mean just nationalities, different ethnic group. By culture, I'm here talking about different discourse community. And could be gender, it could be different age, it could be local club, and how these small or big cultures, people from different cultural group interact with each other. So be aware the differences in the way we communicate with each other. For example, some culture just prefer to speak louder when they talk to each other, and some cultures will actually prefer to have long pauses between turns when they talk to each other. And some cultures tend to use a lot of thank you. That's actually how I find out when I moved to UK many years ago. I found people, at checkout, cashier kept saying thank you when you pass on stuff and pass back. So that's a way of doing things. So be aware of different ways of doing things. And the second thing I would say, to be open and to be flexible, to be willing to negotiate the way we're doing things. Third point I would say is be aware of your stereotypes. We all have our theories or sort of the understanding how somebody can get doing something, and then we have certain expectations when we interact each other. These can be good in a way. It helps us sort of to establish common ground, to find around our ways of doing things. Having said that, there are blind spots. We all have experience that actually stereotype actually backfired to us. So be aware of your own stereotypes, particularly your blind spot in communication with each other. That helps. Three things: be aware of cultural specific ways of doing things, and second, be open and flexible, and the last thing is be aware of your own blind spots.
And that is true. And my fourth question is, with the world becoming more and more connected every day, and we're becoming more informed as well, do you believe that there will ever be a time where we have universal culture?
I think I see the culture is getting bigger. At the same time, it's getting smaller as well. Smaller in the sense it's all about the way of doing things. When you actually say something, when you actually talk to each other, send an email or like something on social media, you are creating new culture. And at some level, we all see cultures getting bigger in the sense people come into contact with each other through face-to-face or through social media, through watching news, watching movie. So we do have, we see bigger scales of culture forming in front of us. But what the most important thing is that when people come into contact, when we're actually developing small culture, we actually see culture, new culture, coming into being. So it's a mixture of, culture getting bigger and at the same time getting smaller. At the same time, there are new culture coming out of the established culture. So I think it's basically changing nature of culture. That I think is really important to appreciate in the contemporary society. And it's historically, it's also very dynamic, changing, looking back. And I'm sure, 10 years later, when we look at the culture then, it will be very different from what we see and what we talk about culture now.
Mm-hmm. Right, everything changes, culture changes with time and society.
Exactly, yeah.
But if we have a universal culture, will we lose our own cultures eventually?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a choice between your culture, global culture, or a local culture. I see diversity, plurality of different culture, mingle, contact into each other, influence each other. At some level, we share some understanding, and at different level, we all have a different experience, a different perspective, and that's so important to understanding where culture is, what culture is up to.
Right. And as for my last question, what do you hope your work and your research will lead to in terms of impacting the world?
I hope through my work and also through my colleagues' work on looking at how people from different languages, cultural backgrounds, and also sort of different kinds of cultural groups come in to interact with each other, we're able to provide a nuanced understanding what's going on, and also hoping to make our work relevant to other disciplines, not just within applied linguistics, but also relevant to historians, philosophers, geographers, and most important, making impact on the society, on the communities, and making more equitable and socially justifiable society.
Well, thank you very much. Those are all the questions I had. So it's very insightful. I'm glad that you came here.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, and nice to talk about these wonderful questions.